Harjit Sajjan is the Minister of National Defence. Minister Sajjan, thank you very much for joining the program. And I want to talk about timing. And I looked to Maurice Fish's report, Justice Fish's report, and he says, I hope that my report will enable rapid implementation. I see no reason to delay removal of the present duty of victims to report their victimization to the chain of command. It impacts on their autonomy, risks their exposure to reprisals, ostracization, and pressures to withdraw their complaint. Given that recommendation, the urgency with which Justice Fish is saying action needs to be taken, why have you not taken action on that one particular recommendation today?
In fact, first of all, I want to thank Justice Fish for a very comprehensive report. And that the recommendation that he made there is an extremely important one, because we want to give confidence for survivors who are coming forward. And this is the work that currently Lieutenant General Jenny Carry-On will be doing to help build that system so that survivors can come forward and make the complaint or any allegations outside of the chain of command. But also, this is the work that Madame Arbour will be doing of looking at the permanent system that will be created for this. And we want to make sure that we also get this right. But we will be moving very quickly on this.
Okay, Minister, I hear you say you'll be moving very quickly on this, but I look at the track record of reports, the Deschamps report, which happened a number of years ago, and the recommendations are still being considered in many ways. I look at this one particular thing from Justice Fish, who says, I see no reason to delay removal of the duty of victims to report their victimization through the chain of command. Why not just today remove the requirement of a sexual assault victim having to go to their commanding officer before they can go to the military police?
No, so this is, in fact, actually, you have that ability now to go directly to the military police. But what we want to do is making sure that we have a system that when somebody comes forward, they also have the appropriate support. This is exactly what we are not only trying to achieve, but we want to make sure this is done well for the long term as well. So Lieutenant General Jenny Carry-On will be working on this. Yes, we have been already for a number of months now, but also the permanency of this. This is what Madame Arbour will be taking a look at, so that we can create that independent position out permanently outside of the chain of command. But we're going to be moving right now on that recommendation so that survivors can come forward with confidence.
Justice Fish has said that the military system basically can't handle sexual misconduct allegations right now. He says they should be able to, but there needs to be reform. How quickly will these kinds of cases be transferred to the civilian system, as Justice Fish has recommended and you have accepted?
So, one, I agree with the recommendation that Justice Fish is making, but within the current system that we have, currently the police and the investigators have the independence to decide which direction to take, as well as the independent prosecutors as well. So that is currently being looked at by the Provost Marshal, and what we want to do is making sure that we have a very efficient system. We working with Justice Fish and his team with our JAG to take a look at, do we need to make a legislative change for the permanency of this? So what we're looking at here is all the recommendations that Justice Fish is making. The 36 of them we're moving on immediately, and the remainder of them we're going to be working with Justice Fish to making sure that we get his intent right.
But Minister, I'm looking at a timeline here, and I'm thinking of victims of sexual misconduct, sexual assault, and other crimes within the military system. Justice Fish has said, enable rapid implementation of the pressing reforms. So what are you talking about for moving these cases temporarily to the civilian system? Will that be in a month? Will it be in a year? Is it longer than that?
So what's really important right now is the current system that we have. I cannot direct where an investigation goes, nor a politician should ever be able to do so. So this is what the Provost Marshal will be looking at in terms of how to take that recommendation and turn it into reality. If there are legislative changes that are needed. We will also take a look at that. But when it comes to the overall implementation, what we're going to be doing, and from the time that I asked Justice Fish for the review on the military justice system back in November of last year, is to take a look at not only those issues, but we're going to be creating an implementation plan that not only that'll be directed by me, but also we'll be able to report back to the National Defense Committee as well, to making sure that it's absolutely transparent and be able to see the progress of the work being done too.
But Minister Sajjan, with respect, Justice Fish is not saying that you should be interfering in investigations and criminal investigations. What his report is saying is that the military justice system, for now, until it reforms itself, shouldn't be handling these particular kinds of sexual misconduct cases, and the civilian criminal justice system should be doing that. When can victims and members of the military expect that change to happen?
As I stated, so I agree with Justice Fish's recommendation on this, and the Provost Marshal, the military police, is actually looking at this and determining the next steps forward. As I stated, because the current system does not, the discretion is currently within the military police. If through greater consultations, if more legislation is needed to make the changes, we will also consider this as well, and we will work with Justice Fish and his team to making sure we get this right.
And how long will that take?
The report has just been put forward. I had the opportunity to read it a number of times. One thing I can assure you in this case here, we will be moving now very quickly on what exactly needs to be done. We will be putting more resources where it's needed in the JAG branch, also with the military police. Mm-hmm. I've also asked Minister Lametti for greater support so we can look at the changes. If you look at the totality of Justice Fish's report, there are a lot of legislative changes that also need to occur. So what we want to do is look at the recommendations that we can move on immediately, that don't require legislative or regulatory changes, but the ones that do, we're going to be thoroughly analyzing it, but looking at a pathway forward, how to get it done. It will require resources, but this is one thing that once we put the plan together, we'll have a better idea for the timeline.
One of the recommendations, Minister, recommendation number 66, calls for military police to receive training on sexual misconduct allegations before the Declaration of Victims' Rights is fully implemented. Do you have a timeline on when MPs, military police, will get that training program, when it will be up and running?
Well, so first of all, I was already briefed that this training has already started, that there was a unit that has that specialized training. So we'll be taking a look at what type of additional training is needed. We also need to take a look at best practices from the various police forces across the country, and to making sure this is done. What we also want to do is making sure that we increase the number of female military police investigators to be able to do this work as well.
Minister, I don't have to tell you the context, but here I'm about to go and do it. You have struggled to get the numbers of female members, new recruits into the Canadian military, the targets that your own government has set. This comes after some of the highest-ranking individuals in the military have been placed under investigation for sexual misconduct, some of it historical, some of it less historical. When you look at the context of where you're at, what do you say, particularly to the women who are in the Canadian Armed Forces, about the confidence that they should have when they hear government saying that it is committed, that it accepts, that it will implement various recommendations, but there isn't a timeline for that to actually happen, and a government that has said these things before, and we are in some cases still waiting for that implementation?
Well, one of the things I can speak for our government, something that we have been absolutely committed to making the changes that are necessary. Everything from when we put the defense policy together, where we put our members as chapter number 1 in the defense policy, the SMR's creation of the SMRC. We want to give greater confidence for the survivors to come forward, regardless whether the complaint happened 30 years ago or whether it was yesterday. We want them to be able to come forward, have the confidence to do so. And this is something, it's a really important point, is as we look at the various challenges, we know we need to increase the number of women in our forces. But we also need to take a hard look of how we need to increase the number of women into our senior ranks. So for an example, when I first became minister, there were 6 female general officers. Now we have 14. And we still have this is not proportional to the number of females that we have, even with the lower percentage of females. So what we're going to be doing is looking at the lower ranks below. How are leaders selected? So this is the work that has been ongoing. What we want to do is making sure that we create a pipeline for women to come through, make the policy changes that have barriers in front of them. For example, everything from, we're going to be looking at from daycare, where from a GBA plus analysis that we're doing, from everything from our operations all the way down to the uniforms that are being worn. What we want to do is, even with the difficulties that we're facing now, and something that we're absolutely committed to changing, is to be able to give the confidence. And in previous years, yes, we have increased the number of women into the military. And what we want to do as we increase that number, we're absolutely committed to making sure that we create a culture that's inclusive and free harassment for all our members.
Minister Sajjan, thank you very much for your time.
Great, thank you.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.